Scientists have unearthed a 3.8 million year old skull in Ethiopia that might change the face of human history. I'm Davion Castillo, and let's get into it. People have been fascinated by the origins of human history for centuries, including myself, and a lot of archaeological digs and excavations have led experts to many questions that they have, but there are still a lot of gaps that needs to be filled in. Alright, so this skull surfaced back in 2016, and it took 3.5 years to find out the question that arose. What kind of skull is it? We do remember Lucy, correct? The almost complete skeleton of Australopithecus afarensis? Well, this new skull and mandible is from the Australopithecus anamensis, which is a close relative of Australopithecus afarensis. So this fossil cranium represents a specimen MDR from an interval between 4.1 and 3.6 million years ago. This time interval is a point where early human ancestor fossils are extremely rare to find. Afarensis lived in East Africa between 4 and 3 million years ago. It is important to the understanding of the human evolution because it might have been the ape-like species from which the true human genus Homo evolved about 2.8 million years ago. Over the past few decades, researchers have discovered dozens of fragments of Australopithecus fossils in Ethiopia and in Kenya that date back for about 4 million years ago. Most researchers think these fossils belong to the earlier species anamensis, and it was generally thought that anamensis gradually morphed into afarensis, implying that these two species never coexisted. So during the 3 years, researchers found out that the skull likely belonged to a male and transported a short distance down a river after death and then was buried by settlement in a delta. Confirming the identity of the fragment puts afarensis living at about 3.9 million years ago, suggesting that the two species actually coexisted for at least 100,000 years. Now this brings up a new question. How did a new species appear when a parent species was already there? So one idea suggests isolation. Small populations can exist and undergo their own changes over time, enough to distinguish themselves from a parent species. Another idea suggests that anamensis and afarensis lived in areas near each other, so geologists are looking at the idea of isolations within population. The area was active and diverse, full of cliffs and aftermaths of volcanic eruptions. The continent was also thinning due to rifting, which could lead to isolation. It's a link between evolution and setting, researcher Taylor says. MRD lived near a large lake in a region that was dry. Researchers were eager to conduct more work in these deposits to understand the environment of MRD specimen, the relationship between climate change and how it affected human evolution, if at all. Previously, researchers believed that anamensis, which was only known to just isolated bone fragments, died off and gave rise to afarensis. So to conclude, the specimen was more ape-like than afarensis was, with a more protruding face to support chewing of tough foods as well as larger canine teeth. It was found in a sandy delta where the river entered the lake. The species likely lived along forest rivers and lake shores and dry shrubland areas, hillsides, along with a lot of volcanic ash and lava. And lastly, the idea of anamensis and afarensis coexisting at the same time contradicts the assumption that these species evolve in a linear manner. The fact that two or more Australopithecus species coexisting at the same time mean that one of them could have evolved into the genus Homo. Well, that is it for me, Davion Castillo, and thanks for listening. Goodbye.